In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a simple graph in Excel. So first of all, you want to start by opening up Excel and you'll see a screen kind of like this. And what you want to do is start with making two columns. The first column, you're going to put a header up at the top, and this should be whatever your independent variable is. And if your independent variable has a unit, you should put the units in parentheses after whatever it is you're calling your independent variable. So I'm being kind of generic here, but if your independent variable is the concentration of an enzyme, you would put enzyme concentration, and then the unit might be percentage or molarity or something like that. Now you can see that this kind of overlaps multiple cells. If you just kind of go up to this column here on the border, if you double click, once you get that little double arrow, it'll pop the width of the column over so that it fits your header there. Now in the next column, you are going to put your dependent variable. And once again, you are going to add the unit if that unit exists. So once again, I'm being generic here, but if your dependent variable is like reaction rate, you would put reaction rate in this header column right here. Now, once you do that, you're going to list your independent variable values in the cells below this heading. So if your independent variable is, we'll say a concentration of 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever it is, you would list it there. And then you're going to type in your dependent variable values. So I'm just making up some data here. So we will say 20, 30, 50, 75, and 100. Now notice I'm only putting numbers here. I'm not putting the units here because the units are up here. You don't need them in these cells because they exist up here. Now to create a chart or a graph, you are going to highlight the data that you want to be graphed. So if you have other stuff typed over here, you can just ignore it because you're just going to highlight what it is you want to graph. From here, you can go to Insert, and then you're going to go to this Charts option here. Now, if you want to do a bar graph, you are going to click Bar Graph. If you're doing a line graph, most likely you actually want to do something called a scatter plot. So don't actually go to the line graph option, go to the scatter plot option if you're doing a line graph. So in this example, because my independent variable is numbers, I can do a scatter plot, which will give me a line graph. So we're just going to go with our scatter plot here and click on this. And you'll see that it put the graph in here for us. Now, you'll notice that this is kind of a bad graph because there's no label here, so we don't know what these numbers mean. And there's no label here, so we don't know what these numbers mean. And this title is an awful title. So I don't know why Excel's default is just a horrible graph, but don't turn in just this. What you need to do is go up to here where it says Quick Layout, and you can look here. So here you can see that it adds these kind of different options here that you can then customize by clicking on it. You can also go to this Add Chart element, and you can indicate whether you want to kind of add these axis titles or not. All right, so you can do it that way, or you can do it the quick layout way. Most of the quick layouts don't really work out the way that they should, though, either. So let's just pick this one for now, and I'll show you how to delete elements that don't need to be there. So first of all, we need to switch our axis titles. So for our independent variable, we're going to put our title in there. So whatever your independent variable is, it goes on the x-axis. And remember, you're going to put unit in parentheses after the title. For the y-axis, the same thing. You're going to put your dependent variable and put the unit in parentheses. All right. Now, we don't need this information over here, so we can just click on this and hit delete and get rid of it. It's okay if you want to leave this equation here if that pops up. This is just the equation of the line, but we also don't really need it for what we're doing. So if we want to get rid of it, we can. And then, of course, we want to change the title because this is not a good title. So for your lab report, you're not going to put a title because you're going to have a figure number and caption underneath the graph. So we would actually just delete this title. And now we have our graph. And so what you can do is then take this, you can right click and copy, and then you can paste this chart into your lab report. Now let's do another example. This time I'm going to do a graph that would be a bar graph. So let's say our independent variable would be, we'll say study technique. All right, so our study techniques could be maybe reading, watching videos, writing notes. And then we could put grade, and we'll make this the percentage in grade. So we'll say that students that only study by reading maybe ended up with a final grade of 50%. Those that watch videos maybe had a final grade of 62%. And those that wrote notes maybe had a final grade of 86% on average. So we could actually change this to average grade. All right, now because we have categories here and not numbers, this has to be a bar graph. So once again, we are just going to highlight the cells where our data is. We are going to go to Insert, and now we're going to do a bar graph. Now, Excel likes to get really fancy with like 3D stuff. These are actually horrible graphs, so don't ever use a 3D graph. And bar graphs should really go like this, not like this. So remember, your independent variable should be on the x-axis and your dependent variable should be on the y-axis. So we are going to select this one. Once again, and here we can click and move this if we want to. So once again, we need to get rid of the title because we're going to put this into a lab report. So we're going to have a figure number with a caption underneath instead of the title. We also need a y-axis label because we have no idea what these numbers mean here. So once again, we can go to, where did it go? Oh, once again, we're going to go to this chart drop down here. Actually, just kidding. Where did that go? So to add that y-axis element here, you need to go to Chart Design, and you need to double click. And then you can go to Add Chart Element. Here we want to do a y-axis, so a primary vertical, and click on that. And then we're going to type in our average grade and percentage there. All right, so this is a good kind of basic graph. If you want to change the colors, you can. You can play around with kind of these options over here. You can also kind of change how the numbers show up and stuff like that. But if you report this graph right here, then you have what you need. All right, so I hope this tutorial was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions on how to create a graph in Excel.